Welcome to Fringe Element here on the 440 Sports Network. My name is Braden Gall, and you can follow me on X at Braden Gall.
I didn't even know about this until you just briefed me. My name is Aaron Dugan. You can follow me on Twitter at the Aaron Dugan or Instagram, Aaron_Dugan.
Well, we're going to break down everything we learned from SEC Media Days because largely all the episodes I gave to you guys last week were mostly conversations with other distinguished SEC dignitaries. Easy for me to say, Aaron. So I figured I'd give you a chance to sort of pepper me because we didn't really talk about the vibe and the energy and the predictions. And now we have some predictions that are officially out. We've got first team, second team, third team, all conference selections. We got all kinds of stuff to discuss today on the show. Please rate, review, and subscribe. We do have some news about the show coming next week. On next week's episode, we will have some news, an announcement, and some subtle tweaks to the show that you're going to want to tune in for. We've got our plan situated for the fall of 2023, which I think is going to be what season for us, Aaron? 2021,
we started this
it's our fourth football season.
It'll be fourth football. Yeah, because we started October of 2020.
That's crazy.
Golly, I can't believe we made it this long.
So some news coming up. I do have one question to ask you, though, about this stupid X stuff, because I'm on the Twitter machine, man. I'm going down with the ship. I've told you before. Here's the thing. If I send you a DM, is it now a DMX?
You have some heavy thinking to do. That's such a dad joke, which is not off-brand for you, but it's also not great.
Hilariously, of course, and I'm stealing this directly from another podcast, I'll admit, but hilariously, of course, Microsoft owns the copyright to X, which means that X is definitely not going to give it to you.
How many more are there? Just tell me now so I can
be
prepared.
That's the
Jesus Christ, Braden. It's so bad.
I'm sorry, they're fucking hilarious to me.
Where did you steal them from?
It doesn't matter. I'm acknowledging that I stole them from another podcast.
You're like, I plagiarized, but I'm not going to tell you where.
It's a political podcast, and if you know, you know. If you know, you know. So either way, the DMX one was mine. That one was mine.
Okay, that was, not bad. Might have been the better of the three.
All right, SEC. SEC. Come on, who would take? This is the absurdity of the rebrand for me. Like who would take sort of like universally organically built brands that hundreds of millions of people know, phrases that hundreds of millions of people know, and use to communicate during live sporting events, in particular SEC football games, like tweet and retweet and like all these things, and then just decide to get rid of all of that brand equity. I don't understand, but that's neither here nor there. I don't get it. I don't get it.
It does kind of feel like Nike, like changing their name to like Y.
It's exactly
it's
like
what it is. You made up a word and a symbol that like no one knew what it was before, and now you're just gonna not use it anymore.
Right. We built a massive company that is worth market value $40+ billion, and we
with a word that didn't exist before.
And we're gonna make the shoes worse and change the name from Nike to the letter Y. That's exactly you're exactly right. Exactly what it is.
Doesn't feel that smart to me.
All right, so SEC Media Day predictions. The official predictions, and this is interesting to me. So a couple of things we discussed going into this week was going to be Bama LSU split. Well, Bama got 165 first place votes in the West, LSU 117. That's a little bit larger of a gap than I expected. Texas A&M third with 1 first place vote, Ole Miss 4, no first place votes. Arkansas 3 first place votes, finishing 5th. Auburn was 6th. Mississippi State was 7th. 4 first place votes for Auburn, 1 for Mississippi State. I don't count any of those 8 first place votes as like real. In fact, I know some of the folks, we talked about this last year. I know the folks who voted for Arkansas. They sort of do it as a joke. But the real interesting thing in the West is the 165 versus 117. So there's that. We can get into that. Georgia, of course, heavy favorite in the East, 265 first place votes. Tennessee 2nd, South Carolina 3rd, Kentucky 4, Florida 5, Missouri 6, Vanderbilt 7, 14 first place votes for Tennessee, 3 for South Carolina, 1 for Kentucky, and 8 for Vanderbilt, which is where I'm going to start, Aaron, because 8 first place votes for Vanderbilt. Certainly, we all know
leave us alone.
But here's the thing. Whatever. Have fun. If you want to pick Vanderbilt to win the East, and 8 of you in the Vanderbilt press corps, which of course I think I know all of you who you work for. If you all want to pick Vanderbilt to win the East as kind of a fun joke, ha ha ha, like great, fine, whatever. It's all good.
Is that funny though?
But here's the funny part.
Okay.
Of those 8, 3 decided that they weren't going to pick Vanderbilt to win the SEC championship, which means 8 people were like, yeah, Vanderbilt's to win the East. Ha ha ha. Got
but
you guys.
Won't win the whole.
But 3 of them were like, no, that's a bridge too far. They're not going to win the SEC championship.
If you're going to send it, just send it. You know,
right?
Like it honestly, yeah, it calls into question those
3
people. Yeah.
So 5.
Like, what were you serious?
8. Well, obviously none of the 8 were serious.
Well, I know that, but it's like, just finish the joke.
Right. Like 5 of them finished the joke. Exactly. 5 of them were committed. 5 people picked Vanderbilt to win the SEC championship. And so stay committed to it. I just want to know what the 3 were thinking when they were like, ha ha ha, we're going to pick Vandy to beat Georgia and win the East. But like beating Alabama in the West, that's too far
much
for me. Too far.
Yeah, especially since Georgia's ranked. None of it makes sense. Whatever.
I find that to be hilarious.
I mean, however you need to entertain yourself, Vanderbilt press corps, do what you got to do. But
Georgia 100.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
I'm
off.
done.
Georgia 181 first place votes to win the whole thing, which has been right. The press at Media Days has been right 7 times in the last 15 seasons. So about half the time the press is right. 181 first place votes. Bama 62, LSU 31. I think that is an interesting split when it comes to basically 2/3 out of everybody picked Georgia. The other third picked either LSU or Bama. And within that other third, it was sort of 2-1 Bama versus LSU. So I thought those are some interesting splits and some votes that we can begin the conversation.
What did you expect to happen?
We had Cole Kubelik on last week, who clearly picked LSU. I thought the Bama LSU would be closer, probably. 165 to 117 in the West. That's and my personal, I don't know where you fall on this.
And 62 to 31 overall.
Yeah, to win the whole thing. Which is again about accurate with what was picked to win the West. So like the ratios are kind of similar. It just, I find it interesting that it was not closer, maybe not 50-50. But having said that, my own personal journey was Bama. When we put the magazine out for Athlon Sports, it was Alabama to win the West. And then for like months, I've been trying to talk myself into LSU. LSU is more complete. LSU is more better situated. They have a better their roster. Their starting 22 is better shape than Alabama's potentially. But like as the week went along, I was like, the games in Alabama, the games at home, Bama's better depth, better roster, better coach. Like I felt pretty comfortable when I picked Alabama to win the West. I was one of the 165 to pick Alabama to win the West. So I did feel pretty comfortable by the end of the week.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if people just resort back to what they know to be comfortable, which is just that we know of Alabama is Alabama and they can repeat and they've been there before, and all the things you just named about location of the game and everything. But with what we've seen, I'm a little bit surprised too that people couldn't lean a little bit harder into LSU's potential, since it's not even just potential anymore. We're seeing it happen, and we saw it happen quickly. So I'm a little bit surprised that Alabama had twice as many overall votes as LSU. But I mean, I thought it'd still end up in this order. I just didn't think the gap would be that large.
I think that's right. The fact that there were 93, I'm going to call them real votes for the SEC championship, not the 5 for Tennessee. I guess if you're picking Tennessee, that's probably a real vote. That's 5 real votes, I guess.
Yeah, I think people probably meant that.
5 for Vanderbilt, 2 for Arkansas, 2 for Auburn, 1 for Mississippi State and South Carolina. I don't consider any of those quote unquote real, because again, I know a lot of the folks that are doing that. I think the vote for A&M is that could be a real vote. I think that's fine.
And it doesn't totally matter. What did I read? That only 9 times in the past 31 years has the overall pick to win the SEC before Media Days or at Media Days been correct.
Right, but it's been far more accurate lately. So yes,
in the last 15, like you referenced.
We're about 50-50 in the last 15 years, but going back to 92,
30%.
You're right. We've missed. What's interesting, and I looked at this, the first 2 years of the predictions, what's interesting is the team that gets picked to win this is going to be complicated, so I'm going to see if I can get this out. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
Oh, I sure will.
If the team that is picked to win the championship doesn't win it, they almost never make the championship game. which means if you are picked to win the SEC and eventually are not the champion, you don't even win your division. So that means, like, for example, if 62 people picked Alabama to win the SEC championship, and that's wrong, odds are it's only happened one time since like 1993 where the team picked to win didn't win but lost in the championship game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so if you're getting to the championship game and you were predicted to win, you probably did.
Yes.
And if you didn't, it's because you weren't there to begin with.
Exactly. You got it. See, you got it. You're a big quantum physics guy. I think I found that interesting that when we quote unquote the media throng, when we miss with the team that doesn't even get there. And that to me is picking either that means Georgia's losing the SEC East, which seems very unlikely, or it's like the Alabama LSU thing, and the other side is just going to be wrong. Like the 62 people who picked Alabama, but in this case, again, it's Georgia. So if that tracks, it means that either Georgia's winning the championship or they're not even getting to Atlanta. Is what that.
And the second one's hard to imagine to me.
I mean, if Tennessee,
yeah. I mean, that's the only shot.
If Tennessee does something crazy and they have one loss going into, let's say it's to Bama, and they lose to Bama on the road, and then they win every other game, and then they somehow beat Georgia, and then that gives them the East title, that would be this scenario playing itself out. But again,
and crazier things have happened. I mean, we saw what happened with Alabama, Tennessee last year, so they may not even lose that one.
I guess you're right.
I think we're agreeing.
I thought the East, my order was I had Kentucky third. They had South Carolina. The media, quote unquote, had South Carolina third. I had Missouri 5. The media had Florida 5. I had flipped those. I had the exact order in the West. That was my prediction: was Bama, LSU, A&M, Ole Miss, Arkansas, Auburn, and Mississippi State in that order. Where do you fall on the predictions, the final predictions? Where would you like to make adjustments?
I don't. To me, that this is one of the most. I've had less questions about the order in the West this year, or I have less questions this year than I have since we've been doing the podcast. I always felt like that. Yeah. I mean, about the order, I think that that Ole Miss, sometimes Mississippi State, sometimes, like when Auburn wasn't, trashing it up. Like there was more discrepancy in the middle of the West, I think, in years past than there is here. Don't you? I mean, I feel like Ole Miss should clearly be ranked above Arkansas, and I feel like Arkansas should clearly be ranked above Auburn, and I normally don't have that much clarity right there.
So I think that's an interesting point. I think you're right, and I think I agree with you. What I think from a prediction standpoint, it is hard because even Vegas has the win totals: Bama 10.5, LSU 9.5, A&M 8, Ole Miss 7.5, Arkansas 7, and then Auburn and Mississippi State at 6.5. So even Vegas completely agrees with that. So to your point, the prediction order maybe feels easier. My pushback on that, or my counter to that, or response to that would be, I would not be surprised if we are incredibly wrong.
You mean about which part? The order?
All of it.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's strange. Like I'm agreeing that was my predicted order, and then that feels like the right order.
But you won't be surprised if you're not.
But I'm not surprised if like all of that is wrong. Like, Ole Miss finishes last, and Arkansas's third, and A&M's fifth, and Auburn is fourth, and like I just wouldn't be surprised if not one of those teams. I would be surprised if it is not Alabama or LSU at 1 and 2 in some order. I would be surprised. But if you told me literally 3 through 7 is any order, you pick a random order out of a hat, I would not be surprised.
Do you think if Auburn moves in a direction that they'll move to the last spot, or they'll move up?
Yes.
That's not the question.
No, my answer is yes. This is what I'm saying. I could see Auburn finishing 4th or 5th or 6th or 7th, 25%. I'd be surprised if they were 3rd. But
can you talk a little bit about what Hugh Freeze had to say about the quarterback situation? Because I would like to hear what he said at media days about it.
Talk about. By the way, this is not to pick on you, but oh my fucking God, with the talk about in the press, in the media.
Can you talk about? I know I'm with you on that. I don't like that. It's not a very forward question.
You South Carolina fans, your coach deserved better. Shane Beamer got it worse than everybody. I think it's because it was the last day, and media members have been out on Broadway for 3 straight nights acting like a bunch of buffoons, and they could not ask a question of him. It was like, talk about your defensive line, talk about your schedule, talk about Dacarrion Joyner.
You're right. That's bad interviewing, and I'm going to do a better job. Braden, can you please give us a succinct but insightful recap of what Hugh Freeze had to say about his quarterback situation for this fall, 2023?
Better. He talked about Peyton Thorne asking for a photo of every single person in the facility so that he could like get to know every single person in the facility.
It's a good sign.
It is, but he is not. I think he didn't say this overtly, but I think he was alluding to the fact that, but Peyton Thorne is not the guy that runs the system that we want to run, which we kind of know. We kind of know that. But I think he's got, I thought the whole thing was rather chill. Like Hugh Freeze didn't have to answer any tough questions. Kirby Smart, he got the AJC had to issue a giant retraction and fired a guy because of the story. So like, that Kirby didn't have to do much work. Saban was like talking about his grandma's cakes and like his anniversary trip to Italy. Like it was very chill. Josh Heupel's very comfortable up there. Shane Beamer very comfortable. Lane Kiffin was cracking jokes. Like it was. I don't know if Nashville has this effect on people.
I think it kind of does.
Where everyone's just
chill out a little bit.
And maybe that's good for the.
They're like, let's get out of here so we can go eat and drink.
I guess.
I don't know.
There was no controversy. There was no drama.
Well, it also seemed like, and I wasn't there with you, but from what I read and watched afterwards, it also seemed like did it feel like there was less of a front being put on? I mean, Hugh Freeze just did what he does, and he's like, are we going to be as good as we want to be? I don't know. Like he just was very overtly like, I don't really know yet what's going to happen, which nobody does, but it seemed like there was less guard up maybe.
So I said this on Feinbaum when I was hosting last week or 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, whenever that was, and people think it's crazy and then think about it for a second. Auburn fans are more excited for their football season than Alabama fans are, in my opinion. And it's not because one's better than the other. Alabama fans are like, yeah, we're going to win the Natty. But like, there's like this layer of like, but LSU and Georgia's the best. And like LSU's pretty good.
They're like fearful a little bit.
And with Auburn fans, they're like, woo, Hugh Freeze, motherfucker, let's go. Like they don't.
Right. Well, they don't care. Yeah. The potential is there for them to be in a happier place than they have been the last couple of years.
And like whatever happens this year is like not that big of a deal. They're gonna host Bama in the Iron Bowl at the end of the year, could win that game. And that
they're like this will be an improvement if we don't get called a dumpster fire for 2 straight seasons.
Yeah, it'll be great. All great things on the Plains this year. It doesn't like 7-5, great. It's gonna be great.
Yep.
Fifth or sixth place, great. Doesn't matter.
I bet that made for a very enjoyable media days.
Lane Kiffin was like surprisingly like loose and comfortable and like cracking jokes about boosters and NIL, and like he was just, I think he was, self-deprecating, and like I thought he was better.
What about Lane Saban moments?
What do you mean? Like talking about Nick Saban? He was asked about Sarkisian more, like because he and Sark were on the same staff under Pete Carroll.
Just and normally used to like some subtle like Lane Saban.
It's interesting. One of the biggest like storylines, because it is the end of an era. Like it's the last year of divisions. It's the last year before playoff expansion. It's the last year before Texas and Oklahoma come. The Texas and Oklahoma storylines were huge. They were Texas and Oklahoma media there, which we've never had before. And so it was interesting to see. There was a lot of conversation, in particular with A&M and LSU and like Alabama and like the Western teams, Arkansas, a lot of questions about Texas and Oklahoma and what does it mean and the rivalries and all the kids that were recruited from the state of Texas. And I'm just telling y'all, it's going to get weird next year. And I cannot wait because SEC Media Day is going to be in Arlington and going to be in Dallas for the first time ever next year. And Texas and OU are going to be there, expanded playoff, no divisions. Like, appreciate what you got this year, folks, because it's the last of its kind. So to quote the great Jason Isbell.
Texas. So lots of Texas, Oklahoma conversation. When it comes to Texas A&M, can you give us a little bit? Is there anything that Jimbo said or did that maybe we didn't get to see? I know like the things that stood out to me is his reluctancy to share if he's going to relinquish play calling or not. And then also his sharing very little about what his plan is for the offense. And then there's something else that stuck out to me. Him saying that they were much better than their 5-7 record indicated last year. So give me some more like A&M scoop.
So Lucci was on last week about 12-15 minutes, and we talked a little bit about Jimbo kind of saying what he said, like, right. Hopefully Bobby P is going to call plays. And he talked a little bit about what the offense is going to involve this year, a little bit more tempo, a little bit more diverse, creative passing attack, which is, of course, what A&M fans have been asking for. I think, and Lucci said this, I've kind of come around on this. Jimbo could stop all of these problems and all of these questions and the question you just asked if he just said yes. Like sometimes, let me give you guys who are not married a little advice. Sometimes your wife does not need you to say anything to what she is saying to you. She just needs you to listen and say yes and say,
how long did that take to learn?
And say that sucks, or I hear you, or you don't need to solve the problem. I'm a person who wants to solve the problem. I want
most
to solve
guys are like
problems.
that.
Yeah, like especially with somebody I care about. Like my wife has a problem, I want to solve it. She's like, I don't need you to solve this problem. I need you to listen and just say yes.
Yep.
Jimbo Fisher, when asked the question, just needs to say yes and shut up. He can't do it.
I think he like kind of enjoys it.
And I am very similar in that my wife sometimes is like, you've said too much. Stop talking. You've talked yourself into trouble.
You're right. I don't know if I'm the best person to give advice since I'm single, but I do think the question of, is this a listening time or an advice time, is a very good.
He just he looks like he just gets himself in trouble because he keeps going. Like, hey, is Bobby Petrino calling the play? Yes.
That's it.
And just end it. And so Lucci
do it.
He can't do it. And listen, as someone who also has a tough time shutting up, I get it. But like, I'm not the $9 million, guaranteed contract head coach of a very disappointing Texas A&M team who had to hire a new offensive coordinator to save my job.
This is true. You have a point. A strong one in that.
So his controversial statement, which is up on the YouTube page, by the way, is like, he kind of was talking about Petrino and he finally goes, hopefully he's going to call plays. And it's like, dude. And as Luch said on the episode last week, like sometimes he just talks himself into a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's all it was. Bobby Petrino is going to call plays. The offense is going to be different. And the question is, when things get tough, the offense is stagnant and they're in a tough game and they're in the fourth quarter, does Jimbo Fisher have the personal strength to shut up and get out of the way and let Bobby P work it out? Or does he meddle and then problems happen? That's I think is the interesting angle.
If you can't do it at media days, it seems like it'd be hard to do it in the fourth quarter of a game. But maybe that's oversimplifying.
That's a very valid point, Aaron Dugan. Yeah. I do think A&M universally though considered the best of the rest in the West. Ooh, you like that?
I do.
Because of dudes, man. They just got better players. We've been saying it all year. Like they've got a better roster than Ole Miss and Arkansas and Auburn and Mississippi State. So pretty universal. Work
together.
They're pretty clear number 3 in
get out of their own way.
Yep. What else you got?
Okay, let's see. What else I want to ask you about?
Where's carrot cake rank in your cake rankings? That was a very hot. This is how boring it was. Carrot cake, Nick Saban's favorite cake, was controversial. That was a controversial topic at SEC Media Days.
Well, how'd that come up?
So he was describing his quarterback room not being fully baked yet. And he's like, oh, it's when I was hanging out at my grandma's house waiting for the cake to bake. And I'd be in the kitchen asking her, when's the cake going to be finished? And grandma would tell me, cake's not done yet, Nicky. And then, of course, the follow-up question was, well, what's your favorite cake? And he's like, carrot cake. And that, of course, elicited a lot of responses. People love carrot cake. People hate carrot cake. Carrot cake, very divisive amongst the SEC media.
I could maybe say something even more divisive, which is I don't like cake.
I mean, that's weird. Un-American, but.
Un-American? Love nachos. Give me nachos over cake. Carrot cake, if I was going to pick a cake, would not be my top cake.
I can't fault you for savory over sweet. I would say carrot cake's not the best cake. It's not the worst cake. Pretty solid cake. It's like an 8 and 4 cake. Is what
it's an 8 and 4 cake.
8 and 4? But like really good cream cheese ice cream or icing goes to a 9 and 3 team. You know, you get the right amount of good cream cheese icing on a good carrot cake, moist, goes up to 9 and 3. It's pretty good. Pretty good cake.
Where does red velvet hit for you?
Red Velvet's 10-2.
Okay, yeah, I agree. If
Chocolate,
as the way of
chocolate
cakes
cake.
go,
Chocolate cake is at the top of the list.
that's fair. That makes you more American than me.
My wife loves hummingbird cake, which is like pineapple and banana. So like
She's so sophisticated.
Yeah, it's very good. It's very good. My mother-in-law used to make it. It's amazing.
I would trust Haley with like pretty much anything.
So it's like carrot cake has like that like the spongy sort of flavor of carrot cake, like the texture. So it's like that, but instead of going carrot and like nutmeg, it goes banana and pineapple. But it has a carrot cake like feel to it with like that cream cheese ice cream. It's a 7 and 5, 8 and 4 on a good year cake, but it's my wife's favorite, so we got to make it every year. So there you go.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'd be open to trying that.
So Bama's quarterback room, Tyler Buckner is the icing, and Jalen Milroe is the sugar, and the spice, and then of course maybe Ty Simpson is the rest of the ingredients. Who knows? But that was his reference.
Got it.
And my belief personally on why I picked Bama is that cake will be baked by November 8th when LSU comes to town. Like that's my reasoning for picking Alabama in theory. One of them.
Would that game being earlier in the season have changed it for you?
Maybe. I could see Texas beating them in Tuscaloosa, honestly. Like I could see Texas beating them, and then they lose to A&M, and wouldn't that be a story? Alabama loses to Texas and A&M. And then beats LSU with only one loss, still wins the West at 10-2, which means they're not going to the playoff, which I think is very possible.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I think that game being at the beginning of November is going to, fare better for Alabama. But I mean, we've also seen LSU continue to make strong improvements. Like, I mean, they're not going to not be getting better. Like, I think we think that Alabama, it will help them to play LSU later. But I mean, LSU is going to be getting better the whole time too. So that's pretty simple take by me, but you know what I mean?
No, it's not. I think that's why they have more votes, frankly. I think the hottest of hot takes that I've got is in theory that LSU and Alabama could both have a loss by week 2.
What are their first 2 games?
LSU plays Florida State week 1. I think Florida State is a like playoff into the national championship game type of good team potentially.
Okay.
And Alabama plays Texas week 2. So
that's not that hot of a take, honestly.
It's two top 12 teams that are playing LSU and Bama in the first 2 weeks. So
can you tell me how much deliberation it took for? I mean, you've been kind of on a Missouri, I won't call it a high, but like Missouri confident for a while. I mean, relatively speaking,
I've come down off that high.
Okay. Well, how hard was it for you to put them above Florida and talk about like that part? Talk about that part.
Talk about that part. Not hard. I'm in on Kentucky, but a lot of people are in on Kentucky.
Are you Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, South Carolina?
Yes. Okay. Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky,
South Carolina, Missouri, Florida, Vanderbilt.
Yep. I think South Carolina's the wild card. You just don't know. Like if they're really good and they work out and everything does happen the way they want it to, they can beat all of these teams. If not, their schedule's so hard they could finish 6th. And so I just don't. I put South Carolina in the middle almost because I just don't have a good feeling for where they're going to fall. My on paper brain tells me that they're a 5th, 6th place team, but the way Beamer has coached the last 2 years is they've been better than that. And so I'm sort of baking that in by moving them above Missouri. My head tells me Missouri 4, South Carolina 5, but
really
Beamer has South Carolina can't beat Missouri like that. So there's that to consider.
I think
but they're picked 3rd by the media. Sense. So
what, South Carolina?
Yeah. I mean, media likes him. So,
and seems to love Shane.
Well, what's not to love? He's a great dude.
He is.
I think all these Heupel, Stoops, Napier was a little methodical. Clark Lee's a little robotic. Eli Drinkwitz was pretty feisty, but I'm not sure anyone noticed because it's Missouri. But Drinkwitz was pretty feisty. Here's one of the bigger stories of the week, and there's no real solution here, and we've talked about NIL ad nauseum.
Right.
But Greg Sankey made it very clear in his opening statements that NIL is a huge problem, not because he doesn't want it, but because there's no way to regulate it without Congress. And knowing that Congress is your only solution has got to be just frustrating and terrifying. He clearly hates all the different state laws being different. Meanwhile, on the same day, Eli Drinkowitz got up there and thanked the Missouri legislative state representatives. Like the Speaker of the Missouri House was in Eli Drinkowitz's prepared speech. Like, I've never heard an SEC coach thank a legislative
Really
body
weird.
in his state, because Missouri's law is very open. It's very like free for all. Do whatever you want. So is Arkansas. So is Texas. There's a lot of them in the SEC. And Sankey clearly hates it.
Well, yeah. I mean, that makes sense. Weird.
The coaches don't love it, but they're going to use it to the best of their abilities. And so,
yeah,
again,
all you got. What are you going to do?
He's like, I got to thank the governor, and I got to thank the Speaker of the House, and I got to thank and I was like, what?
Weird.
Like 45 minutes or an hour after Greg Sankey is like begging Congress to put in guardrails on NIL that go. He's like,
he probably wanted to punch Eli in the face for that.
Well, it's not, but it's not Eli's fault. It's
I know it's not. I know it's not, but it's just his life is.
Eli, he's nerdy, but he's prickly. I'll just say that.
Prickly.
A little prickly.
I feel like I am too.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. No one's ever used that to describe me, but it feels right.
No argument there.
Okay. Well,
I'm trying to think. Players are so great, man. Just
the best.
They're so good.
Everyone was well represented.
They're so good.
Who was the standout personality player-wise?
There's so many. J.C. Latham, Alabama offensive lineman, basically said, like, look, that is not our standard. I was torn on last year. I was proud of my own performance, but not proud of the team's performance. And we're going to come back this year. We're going to win the national championship, go undefeated, win the Joe Moore Award, and I'm going to win the Outland. And I was like, and I've got that clip up on YouTube. You can check it out. I was like, you've practiced that. No, most people don't rattle off the Joe Moore Award in their like shit talking speech.
God, O-linemen are definitely bring a good dynamic.
Great.
They're so weird and fun.
They are. Josh Williams, running back LSU, was amazing. Just he's a senior. I don't know if he's going to play in the NFL. I don't know if he's like a star. He's a really good player, but I don't know if he's like a superstar. And
where's he from? Do you know?
I think he's from Texas.
Okay.
I'll have to double check on that. But he was, very well spoken, very thoughtful. Gave me great answers on Brian Kelly, leadership, communication. Gave great answer on Harold Perkins, what makes him a freak athlete. Like if anyone's going to be a broadcaster, Josh Williams could be a broadcaster. Was great. Amari Thomas from Tennessee gave a great answer on Josh Heupel.
Kids are impressive.
Joe Milton was very, very thoughtful about his own personal growth and very mature and very sort of like, and I thought it was interesting. He got voted third team all SEC on the same platform as Will Rogers, who was also really, really polished and ready. Mm-hmm. Spencer Rattler, I was surprised. Like Rattler was great. Like he was good. But like trying to think who else. And there's a lot of them up on YouTube. So check out the YouTube page if you want to see a bunch of these clips from a bunch of these players. I got Eli Cox up there from Kentucky. We got I tried to get as many of the stars as we could. Brock Bowers was up there talking about Kirby Smart bringing just like 10x energy at all times.
That's awesome.
So there's a lot of players up there. They're just so good, man. Like they're smart, they're funny, they're interesting. A lot of talk about NIL, a lot of talk about gambling and like what are we supposed to. They know the rules that they're not supposed to gamble and all this other stuff. So it's the players are just always so much fun. Like full stop on that.
Well, that's great. That
all the Texas
like
A&M players wore sunglasses.
So bougie.
Which
These guys definitely all think that they're like. That was my experience at Vanderbilt too. It's like getting on a plane or media days. I'm like, y'all think that you just are on the cover of GQ, and it's fine. Like take the opportunity when you get it.
With NIL money though, it used to be like, all right, what Jordans do you got on? And I had a couple pairs of J's on this week, and you got to rock the shoes at SEC media days. But these are like they're like Gucci now. Like they're
yeah, they got like all their luggage is Louis. They got Gucci, different. Everything. Yeah. It's a thing. It's a whole thing.
There's so many of them wearing these one pair of shoes, and I was like, these are ugly. And then I was like, looked at the label, and they're all Gucci, and I was like, that's what costs thousands of dollars now. Is that shit? Give me a break.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take my OG low top MJ1s. I'm good to go.
Yeah,
that's all I need. That's all I need.
Me too. I know. I need some NIL money if I'm going to be wearing Gucci shoes.
Yeah, fuck that. No, the players are great. It was a lot of fun and exhausting. And I don't know what else what you got any more? What else you got?
Questions?
Yeah, what else you got?
I would say
Who did we miss? I feel like we missed. Like, we talk about Kentucky. I don't know.
we didn't really talk about Kentucky except for, where they fell in kind of the order for you and Mark Stoops being chill.
Yeah.
So we didn't really talk about that. We kind of breezed over Mississippi State.
Oh, you want an interesting one? Here's one. Brian Kelly went full AI. And he was like, yeah, AI is going to be a big part of recruiting in the future. So we're looking into that. We are absolutely going to move into that space. I think Lane Kiffin's, or no, Eli Drinkowitz was like, I don't know anything about AI, so I'm not going to comment. And like Lane Kiffin was like, I don't know. And Josh Heupel gave like, I think the better answer, which is like, I don't know much about it, but if we've got something out there that can help us recruit and identify players, then we're going to use that tool. And it's like, wait a second, AI is going to be a part of like everybody's program. That was interesting.
I mean, I guess can't say I'm shocked by it, but that is odd.
You and I and everyone else in this country, just like we all have a smartphone, is going to have an AI assistant. It's going to happen. Just mark the tape on this.
I believe that. I hadn't really thought about that, but I believe it.
Yep.
Anything else you want to talk about Mississippi State wise? I'm trying to think if I have any specific questions about.
Zach Arnett was good. He was fine. First trip through. They paid homage to Mike Leach, of course, at the beginning. They also talked about the Covenant shooting in Nashville, which was important, and they brought the officers up there. So Greg Sankey did a really good job, I think. But NIL is just like the primary focus for everybody. Otherwise, I think they were all trying to get out of there like super chill. We didn't talk about Georgia much. Cedric Van Pran's great. Brock Bowers is great. Georgia's the overwhelming pick, and I don't think they're going to win the national championship. That's my prediction. So,
okay. Well, you heard it here. Well, maybe not first, but.
All right, you can follow me on the X Machine, the Outrage Machine, at Braden Gall, at 440 Sports on the YouTube page as well. You can get to Aaron at the Aaron Dugan on Twitter. That's right, yep. Aaron_Dugan on Instagram. Otherwise, stay tuned next week for a big announcement. We really, really appreciate you guys. Football season camp opens up very, very soon. It's right around the corner, so sit tight, hang with us. We do appreciate it. Very exciting coming up in 2023. Otherwise, have a great weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.
Later, homies.